Hey everybody, it's Dave from Clean Pro Supply and Resin Forest Products, and in this video we're going to talk about the difference between a 1099 contractor and a staffed employee. A subcontractor or an independent contractor who's doing work for you, they're basically bringing all the work to the table, all the knowledge to the table, all the experience, the insurance, all the liability, everything to the table is on them. So the biggest difference between a contractor and an employee is kind of what they're bringing and what you're providing. So a subcontractor or independent contractor, you're going to give them work assuming that they know how to do it, they can do it, they have the resources to do it, and then if something bad happens or weird happens when it comes to either property damage, injury, workmanship, any of that, that's still all on them. They manage that risk, they assume that risk, they cover that risk or redo it if it's like a workmanship issue. If you're hiring a 1099 contractor, what you're going to do when you bring them on before they actually do the work, they need to fill out a W-9 form. On that W-9 is their name, business name, address, signature, but most importantly their tax ID number or their EIN number. That's essentially the business's social security number, kind of, sort of. It's their way of, it's the government's way of recording everything that that entity of a business is doing from an income perspective. Just like your personal social security number, the business will have an EIN number or a tax ID number. So they're going to have to provide that W-9 to you in advance. If they don't have a business and they're still bringing all that to the table, then they're just going to use their social security number and they're going to operate as a DBA. In addition to the W-9, you also need to make sure you're collecting their insurance certificate, because when you go to submit your workers' comp policy for your business and then they see that work was completed, then, because the workers' comp is basically based on sales essentially, and labor rates, and there's a lot of stuff that goes into it, but they're going to be looking at that. So in order to exempt that from your workers' comp policy, you have to show them the 1099 contractor's insurance certificate that they had coverage while they were doing that work, so that you don't end up paying for that same coverage and doubling up on it. So they're bringing insurance to the table and they have to prove it to you with a valid insurance certificate. And then they also have to give you the W-9, and then they do the work for you. And then when the work is done, you pay them. And then at the end of the year, you're providing the summary of the work and the dollars spent to them, along with the W-9, to your accountant. And then the accountant is going to provide a 1099 income statement back to you to pass to that contractor. And that's how they report to the government the work that they've done and the income that they've made working for you. But again, they bring in all the risk, they bring in all the training, the experience, the knowledge, the equipment, the insurance, they bring everything to the table and they do it all themselves. Switching gears to an employee, you're actually providing all that to the employee. So when you hire an employee, they're going to fill out a W-4 form, and that's just basically their name and address and phone number and social security number and all that. But also, most importantly, they're designating how much to withhold in income tax based on their family situation. Are they claiming 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dependents? Whatever it is, that's going to determine how much money you're going to withhold from their paycheck as income tax. Whereas when you're doing a contractor, you're not withholding any tax. They do all that on their own and they just pay it at the end of the year. With an employee on payroll, you're withholding their income tax from every single paycheck throughout the year, paying that to the government. And then at the end of the year, you're providing them a W-2, which is a summary of their income, a summary of all the tax withholdings, what you've paid out as an employer on their behalf. And then of course, if there's a difference, they're either going to owe that difference or they're going to get a refund. That's the paperwork process, but what's the definition of an employee? An employee is someone who comes to work for a business and then the business provides everything else. So me as an employer, I'm going to provide liability insurance. I'm going to provide workers' comp insurance. I'm going to cover, if they make a mistake due to workmanship, I'm still liable for that to work as a team to make sure that we make that right to our customer. I'm also going to provide training and equipment and tools and vehicles. Now, if you're out in the field, you're going to have all that equipment out in the field, maybe trucks, trailers, vans, box trucks, whatever. If it's more of an office role, you're still providing tools and equipment. You're providing an office, you're providing a computer, you're providing software. There's a lot more that goes into it even further than that when it comes to risk and everything, but generally speaking, if you're a new business getting started and you just need help because you can't do it all on your own, is this a one-time deal where you're just going to sub it out to somebody who has their own insurance? Or is this someone who's going to come on your payroll and you're going to pay them maybe per diem or part-time, who may eventually become full-time? In that case, you want to get them on payroll, make sure you have property cover, or you have everything properly documented as an actual employee, and that way if there's any liability risk that pops up, you're covered. And then that's just really just the definition of how to do it from an income tax perspective versus them just doing it on their own. But hopefully that explains some of the questions that you guys may have had as far as when do I hire someone as a 1099 contractor? When do I hire someone as an employee? Is there a gray area? There's no gray area. It's one or the other. There's really no riding the boundaries. We have a separate video that's going to talk about liability and risk and insurance. But for the sake of the definition between a 1099 contractor, they bring everything to the table. An employee relationship with an employer, the employer is bringing that to the table to them to support them, and they're just helping you. But again, any more questions you have about employees or subcontractors, feel free to comment at the bottom of this video, and I'll be happy to answer anytime. Have a good day. Take care.